Good morning, Digit fam. Adam Dowd here with your daily dose of tech shenanigans brought to you by Samsung. This podcast not sponsored by Samsung, but it is Samsung that brings us to the podcast, so let's dive right in. It is August 7th, 2019, and this is your Digit Daily. Samsung will announce its Notes 10 today. We're reasonably sure we'll get at least two of them. It's all rumors and speculation at this point. Screen size, number of variants, headphone jack or no. There is one thing that we can be pretty sure about, and that's due to a new chipset that Samsung published details for ahead of the Note 10 release. That chipset is Samsung's own Exynos 9825 processor. Samsung typically releases different SKUs of its smartphones. The US and other audiences in the West will get the Snapdragon variants, while the rest of the world will get Samsung's homegrown solution. It'd be like if your friends had a party and everyone who came was served Coors Light, but all the folks from your block got the special homebrew that they make themselves. Now, I'm not really sure who the winner and loser is in that scenario, much like it's dubious who the real winner in the Snapdragon versus Exynos competition is, except it's totally Snapdragon. But anyway, while you're at that party, you might want to ask your friends why they beat their barley with a baseball bat before brewing. Or maybe don't. It's probably better if you don't. What are we talking about again? Oh, right. So Samsung's new Exynos processor spec sheet reads a lot like a Snapdragon 855, or maybe the 855 Plus spec sheet. This generation of Exynos is built on a 7nm process, which is down from the 8nm process from last year. And in the world of processors, nanometers are a big deal. Somewhat ironic, I get it. But why is a nanometer a big deal? Well, long story short, it leads to better chip performance, more battery savings, and reduced heat output, which overall helps the chip perform better longer. And I really hope you accept that short version of the story, because the long version starts with once upon a time. I have no idea what is really involved on a fundamental technical level. This is just what people who do understand it tell me. The end. Smile and nod, people. Smile and nod. But the end result is we have seen the processor that will end up in some SKUs on the Notes that we'll see on stage later today. And oddly enough, this announcement takes place at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 o'clock Pacific Time. If you're not from the US, just Google what time is it in Enter Your City Here when it is 4 o'clock in New York City. And there you have it. Ironically, it'll be 5 a.m. in South Korea, Samsung's home turf, when that announcement happens. So if you're in South Korea and you feel dissed, I wouldn't blame you. So while South Korea swallows its consternation, let's head into the roundup! Disney announced a bundled price for Hulu, Disney Plus, and ESPN Plus, and it'll be less than Netflix by itself, $12.99 per month. Stand by for a Netflix original series, Ouchtown, We're Screwed. Honestly, the only thing keeping me on Netflix these days is T-Mobile. They bundle in Netflix, so it literally costs me nothing. So yeah, I'll be picking up that new bundle, and if T-Mobile ever drops Netflix, so will I. Figure out something quick, Netflix. Adam Sinicki over at Android Authority once made around $50,000 by creating an Android app and learned a few things along the way. He shared his wisdom with us, and if you're an up-and-coming developer, it's well worth a read. Personally, I've tried to learn to code 6 times in my life and absolutely failed each time. But every time I tried, I did get a little bit farther. My crowning achievement was developing a Mad Libs app where you were prompted for adjectives, nouns, names, etc., and after filling them in, it gave you the whole story. I'm proud as hell of that, even if it was only one static story, and I'm pretty sure I stole it from an online Mad Libs website. Last year, OnePlus launched a smartphone with T-Mobile, marking it the first time it launched on a US carrier. Well, it's adding a second carrier to its roster by launching the OnePlus 7 5G variant on Sprint in the US. Of course, now that the Sprint T-Mobile merger has been approved, maybe it's still only one carrier. You were so close, OnePlus. No details on pricing or availability just yet, but we'll find out soon for sure. Amazon will begin deliveries of products via autonomous robots named Scout in Irvine, California. You may remember we talked about Scout a few months back. It's a little 6-wheeled robot that rolls along until it gets to its destination and drops off the package. While the robots will drive autonomously, they'll be accompanied by, quote, Amazon Scout ambassadors who will answer questions about the robots and generally study people's reactions to them. At the end of the day, if people freak out at seeing these things rolling down the street, let's just say they probably won't make it to phase 2 of testing. But in the meantime, I love the future. Last April, Elon Musk told the press anyone relying on LiDAR is doomed, and when it comes to self-driving cars, the reason is fairly simple. LiDAR is god-awful expensive, up to tens of thousands of dollars. So it makes sense that Tesla is trying to make optical sensors, basically algorithm-backed cameras, do as good a job. Well, experts have come forward to saying, yeah, maybe not so fast, Elon. The main arguments here are redundancy and complementary data. Basically, having both LiDAR and optical sensors gives the AI behind self-driving a more complete picture of what's going on out there, so it can make the best decisions. Sure, but LiDAR sensors still cost 1/4 of the car itself. That's not helping anyone. I hate to say it, but I'm kind of on Elon's side here. Optical or bust. Unless, of course, you want self-driving Maseratis or something. They say it's not possible to just make food out of thin air. Well, they used to say that because now it's actually possible. NASA originally worked out how to go about making food with just carbon dioxide, water, and electricity, and then a Finnish company turned that into reality, creating what it calls Solein. The company released charts showing how Solein is more environmentally friendly than other types of food, including crops and animals. Solein could potentially become useful in non-meat products like Impossible Foods. It's fairly powerful being able to produce food without having to worry about sun, rain, or even land. Now if they could just make it come in a grape flavor, I'll be sold. And finally, true story. I once sat in a drive-in restaurant, you know, the kind where the servers bring you food and hook it on your window, roller skates optional. After grabbing my tasty burger and taking a bite, suddenly I saw a flash of white and feathers and found myself without my french fries. A bird had swooped in and stolen them right off my tray. I mean, seriously, what the hell? It turns out I might have avoided that avian heist if I had simply stared the bird down. Researchers in the UK set out to determine if birds would be less likely to steal food if someone stared at them. And no, I don't know where they got their funding, but I might have Indiegogo'd that thing if they'd asked. Anyway, it turns out that on average it took birds 21 seconds longer to approach food when being stared at. So let that be a lesson to you. If your food is going to be exposed, be on the lookout for a-hole avians that want to steal it and just stare those dirty birds down just like Clint Eastwood. So that's going to do it for today's Digit Daily. If you'd like to learn more about any of these stories, check out the links in the show notes and subscribe to our daily newsletter on Digit.com. And if you like what you heard, subscribe, leave a review, and don't forget to tell your friends about DigitDailyPod.com. Once again, I'm Adam Dowd, Dead Technology on Twitter, and we'll talk again tomorrow.